Piston doors. They're probably one of my favorite things to build in the game and are undoubtedly the most common redstone challenge for technical players. However, there are many types of doors, with normal doors being one of, if not the most common. They come in a variety of sizes. They can be larger, small, and are always a fun challenge to make. Personally, I've spent way too much time making these types of doors, from 2x2s to 12x12s, yet I've never made a 5x5 and I want that to change. So today, I will be attempting to build my first 5x5 seamless piston door. First things first, we're going to need a layout. Now, I'm not the best at making layouts, but I did manage to make one for a 5x5, which I think is going to be relatively simple. So, for the closing, it's actually quite simple. We extend that, and then we extend that, do this, and then a sort of dual piston extension. So once our door is closed, and we've obviously done this on both layers, for the opening sequence, what I'll then do is that I will have a triple piston extension from the top. Once that's done, I'm going to take this, and then I'm going to do a triple piston extension. And you may be wondering, why don't I just do a double piston extension so that I don't push up the block that is right here? And the reason for which I don't want to do the double piston extension is because I actually want to keep this as simple as possible. So by doing only a triple piston extension, I feel like it is going to keep the redstone relatively simple. So there we go, there's that, and for the top, I'm going to do this. So there we go, that is how the layout is going to work. Now that I've explained how the layout is going to work, I need to begin with the redstone. So I actually want to start with the triple piston extender at the top, because I think that it's going to be the easiest thing to build. Now this is going to be powered in practically the same way than my 3x3 expandable sissy bar door, except that I'm going to try to make the redstone a lot cleaner. I do want to keep this door somewhat compact, but I won't be too mad if it ends up being huge. So when the door is closed, our pistons are going to be like this, which means that for the opening, I'll probably just extend these over, and then I'll extend these at the top, and that'll give us a triple piston extension that we need. Then when I need to re-extend these, I'll just extend these one more time, and then I'll begin the retraction. I've begun a tiny bit of wiring, and something that I'm going to be doing with this door, which I don't do with a lot of doors, and I really should do it, is that I'm going to sort of plan ahead. Now, when you're building redstone doors, a lot of the time you want to plan ahead, mainly in how you're going to power the door, or the pistons, I should say. You want to do this in advance because that way you know how you're going to be powering the pistons and you don't hit a roadblock and you have to restart what you were building. Right now what I've done is that I have attached this falling edge monostable circuit over to this. So this will dispense the item into this dropper up here and it'll keep these pistons extended. Now what I then need to do is that I need to power these pistons, and I think I'm actually going to do it with observers, because there really isn't another way of doing it. And instead of using pistons, which is what I did for the 3x3 sissy bar door, I'm actually going to use hoppers, because that way the pulse for the pistons is slightly shorter. Not that it matters all that much, but I think it's nicer. Now what should happen when I retract this lever is that these pistons get pushed over, or the observers get pushed over, and then the pistons right here extend. But before I do that, I need to sort of simulate the door closing, so that way there will be a gap. So, let's see if it works. It should work. I don't see why it shouldn't. Well, that's strange. Oh, I forgot redstone dust up at the top. That was quite embarrassing. Anyways, take two. So let's see if this works. Now, it should hopefully activate these pistons right after, so no, it hasn't. I wonder what happened, because I did see the observers update. Looking back at the footage, it turns out that these observers activated too soon, so we need a tiny bit more delay. Now, you may be wondering, why didn't I just add some more delay? And although that could work, it would make the observers double pulse, and I don't want that because it's going to make the door all jittery, and I hate doors that do that. So I've added a falling edge monostable circuit to this repeater set to 4 ticks of delay, and that should now work. So let's move this redstone dust back down here and test it out. So it works, and I actually could take off this repeater since that is too much delay anyways. I actually need to re-extend these pistons much later on, so for now I'm actually going to work on the much dreaded bottom section. This is going to be the difficult bit. Just like with the top section, I'm actually going to have to figure out a way to power this, because something a bit tricky is that when we actually do the drill piston extension, there are going to be blocks here and here, which means that we can't have any redstone components there. So instead, what I'm going to be doing is that I'm going to do something very similar to what I did up there, with pistons and observers right here. So this is what I've come up with. It is exactly the same than the top, except that it's upside down. So it's going to work in the same way. Extend these, extend, extend, then I'll retract. I'll do a dual piston extension and retraction. And right here, I'll actually keep these extended for a while, so that way these guys get to pull their blocks back. I'll retract that, extend and retract, and then I'll be able to push over with these pistons. Now, how am I going to power them? There's going to be blocks up here, which will make the entire thing a lot trickier. This is how I'm going to be powering the redstone line. I'm going to be using redstone torches at the bottom, which will power these blocks, and that means that I can have repeaters up here and activate the pistons above them independently. Now, if there's something that I love about Bedrock Edition, it is soft inversion. It is one of, if not my favorite redstone mechanic. A lot of people, and especially those who are somewhat new to redstone, think that building doors is, oh, it's this almost impossible thing to do and I'll never be able to do it. But in reality, it's quite simple. You just need to figure out how things are going to work, and a door at its most fundamental level is just you powering redstone lines at the correct moment. With this built up, I should now have the drill piston extension working. So, there we go. Now you may be wondering why I have so much delay right here, and that is because if I have any less delay, the pistons at the top will be desynchronized. They will do the exact same thing, however, it will not be at the exact same time, and I want this to be sync. With the extension now in place, I need to work on the retraction. Now, something that I have also added in is this bit right here, and this is going to allow me to control these pistons whenever I need to. I decided to add this in right now instead of waiting, because if I wait, I know for sure that I'm going to forget and I won't leave enough room to actually do this. Now, the part of the retraction that I'm working on right now requires me to do this sort of double piston extension and retraction. And I think that what I'm doing is that I've added this falling edge monostable circuit to the bit that activates the latest, and this is going to connect up to the bottom pistons, which will extend. Then I need to activate this redstone line, which can be done with a repeater right here, and I think that that should work. Now, the last thing that I do need, however, is a tiny bit of delay right here. So now we should have a tiny bit of the retraction done. So let's test it out. Oh, and what happened was that I think this redstone line activated a bit too late. So, I think I'm just going to do this, actually. Yeah, there we go. So that should now work. So I'll put these back down here, and let's test it out. Oh no, that was too soon. I was close, though. So I do need the delay right here, which means that it's probably best to just add delay up at the top instead. Let's try that out. Okay, attempt number 3. Does it work? No, I somehow forgot a row of pistons. Another embarrassing mistake. Now it should work. And it hasn't. This line is activating too soon. Anyways, now it should work. So, there we go. Yes, so now the only thing that I need to do is to activate this redstone line, which is going to pulse these, which will grab its blocks, then that'll pull its blocks down, and then send a pulse through here. Now I've connected up the last bits that I needed to do, and hopefully it now works. So I'm pretty confident about this one. Let's test it out. Oh no, it was a bit too soon. I think the problem lies in how long this redstone line is being pulsed for. Now this should work. So, let's try it out again. Yes, it works. Now I need one last thing, and that is to pulse this redstone line after a bit. Now that can be done easily by taking an observer output from this, and I think by just connecting it up right there, that should do the trick. So let's try it out again. Extension, that's working fine, and now for the retraction. Oh, it's inconsistent. That's gonna be a problem. Yes, I figured it out. So to get rid of the double pulsing, instead what I'm going to use is that I'm going to use C-ticks. Now, I should have done this to begin with, because I have so much space to work with, mainly because I don't care about compactness. Anyways, let's look at it in action. So there is the extension, and there is the retraction. So to pulse this redstone line without the observers picking it up, I'm using C-ticks. So as you can see, the piston's right there pulsed and the observer didn't pick it up. I made a whole video talking about them if you're interested. Anyways, this means that the drill piston extension is now done, which means that I actually get to begin to work on the timings. I actually just realized that before I begin wiring everything up, I should probably do the closing. So that is what I've gone ahead and done. So when the door is closed, it's going to look like this with the floor blocks right there. So if we go ahead and activate this, you can see that we get this happening. And the thing that we need to do now is to extend these and then do a sort of double piston extension. And we can actually then leave the blocks like that. We don't need to retract them any further. So once we're done and our door is closed, it should look like this. Well, obviously on all 3 layers, not just this one. So I need to start off by extending these pistons, and then I need to power this redstone line. For part of the closing, I need to keep these extended for a while. Now I was thinking that I could just use a pulse extender, but I think it's actually going to be better if I use a D flip-flop, because that way I can power it on the closing and then unpower it on the opening. Another thing that I want to mention about this D flip-flop is that it's consistent as long as you're only using 1-tick pulses. If you're not using 1-tick pulses, then you have to put a minecart in it, so that way it stays consistent. The reason for which this can be inconsistent sometimes is because, as you can see, with a 1-tick pulse, the hopper instantly picks it up, but if you keep it powered for a bit, the hopper can sometimes miss the item that you've put in it, and it will fall off, as you just saw right there. With that bit now in place and double piston extension now working for the very end, I now have a fully functional closing. I just need to reset the pistons, and we're good to go. Here is the closing. And I messed up at some point. I think that what happened was that this redstone line activated a bit too soon. So I added some delay connecting to the part that I just built up, and now it should work. I'm really confident about this. I know I've said it before and that it wasn't true, but I'm like 92% that this is going to work. Let's see if it does. It does work. That's brilliant, because then on the top, that means that all I have to do is this. So then on the opening, I just have to make sure that this is in the right state. So on the opening, that's going to do that. Then I'll obviously run the entire closing sequence, which involves sending a pulse through this. Then I'll retract these. I'll do a triple piston extension. Oh yeah, I'll retract them and then push them over, which will leave them right here. I will do a triple piston extension, and then I will activate these, and I've actually already wired that up, and then that's going to retract, and I've also taken the liberty of wiring that up, and then I'll push these over, which will push the pistons back, and then I just have to do another triple piston extension, like this, and the door was pretty much done. And then, of course, I have to send a C-tick through there, but that's minor, that's very easy. To actually begin finishing the door, I decided that I'd start off with the closing. So the closing is now working, as you can see, and we now have our fully closed 5x5. Now for the opening sequence, I do need to do some more changes. For example, at the bottom, I have to start off by depowering this. Then I have to do a normal extension on this row of pistons. Then I have to re-extend this. Then I'll do the triple piston extension one time. Then I'll do it again, and the door will be fully opened. So to begin the closing sequence, I'm going to start off by building a simple falling edge monostable circuit right here. So this is going to connect into this dropper, and basically what it's going to do, it's going to cause these pistons right here to retract. Then I'll be able to extend these pistons right here. Oh my goodness, I hate it when that happens. I'll be able to extend these pistons right here. Then I'll do the triple piston extension. I'll retract it, push over, and then I'll do another triple piston extension. I'm also going to need quite a bit of delay since this is going to activate only after the entire triple piston extension is done. I've added in enough redstone to where I think it is worthy of a test. So, the closing sequence, that's working fine. We've already tested that countless times. But now for the opening sequence. So what should happen is that we obviously have the triple piston extension, but then we have blocks get pulled back, an extension from the top row of pistons, and then it gets pushed back again. So let's see if that works. No, it has not worked. Wait, what happened? So, I think I know what happened. So, I need less delay here, and that should hopefully fix the problem. So I'm just going to reset this and do another test. That should have hopefully fixed the issue. So the closing sequence, that of course works. That's like the 5th time we check it. And for the opening, so we have double pulsing going on right there, and we never actually got these pistons re-extending, so I think I must have messed up at some point in the observer line. It turns out that the issue wasn't actually caused by the observer line itself, but more by the amount of delay that I had. So I changed things up a bit, and now I have more delay. So if we go ahead and activate this, you can see that the closing is of course working, and the opening is also working now. So it does some weird things, but it gets the job done, and that's really all that matters. Now what we have to do is activate this. So the triple piston extender will activate that. We'll push the blocks over. That's already going to retract by itself because of some wiring that I've done at the top, and then we have to reactivate the triple piston extender. Now a circuit that I have up at the top right here is a D flip-flop connected to a monostable circuit. This activates every single time we send a pulse through the triple piston extender at the bottom. That is why you see the automatic retraction up at the top. I thought to myself, since this already pulses every second time that we send a pulse through the triple piston extender, why don't I reconnect it to the triple piston extender itself after the first retraction, so that way it re-extends. So that is exactly what I went ahead and did. A thing that I had to do in the retraction process was to actually quickly re-extend these once again, and the problem is I didn't really have space for that. So instead what I did is that I'm going to quickly retract and re-extend an observer from the observer line, and that is going to send another pulse through it. Anyways, with that little bit wired up, it means that we're practically done with the door. We just need to connect this extender this triple piston extender at the right time. So the only issue that I'm having is that I don't know how much delay I need, so I'm just going to time the opening. And the stopwatch has started, and I should give it only like 3 seconds of delay, so a lot less than what I was expecting. And that means that by doing something like this, so I'm going to put a redstone torch on the side of this piston, sticky piston right there, and if I just connect this up to a line of repeaters, it should actually be enough. So 3 seconds, that's 0.4, 0.8, 2, 1.6, 2, 4, then 2.2. So with that repeater line in place, the only thing that I really need to do now should be to just connect it up to here. And I think that to do that, I'll put a sticky piston there with a block on its face, observer there, and a repeater right here should do just the trick. So I'm going to reset it, close the door, and test the opening sequence to see if it works. I feel like it should. I don't see why not, unless I didn't have enough delay, in which case it is going to break the majority of the build. Actually, I'm going to make a backup. No, I will not apply to become a marketplace creator. I have now created a backup, and this should hopefully work. I'm so nervous. No, it didn't work. No. No. It needs a bit more delay. Now the question is, how am I going to add it? I think if I just drop down all the repeaters by a layer, it should be enough. Anyways, let's look at what I've done because it is quite a bit. We're pretty much done with the door, except for the opening. We just need to send one final C-tick through the door. So you can see we have the first troll piston extension and the retraction that pushes the blocks over. Then we have the second troll piston extension. We retract the things at the top. Then the last thing that I need to do is to quickly send a pulse through this redstone line. It actually has to be a C-tick so that it doesn't interact with the observers. So my plan for that is actually pretty simple, although quite funny if you ask me. So every time the troll piston extension activates, or the troll piston extender activates, I should say, it toggles the state of this piston. So I thought to myself, why don't I just take an observer output from this, connect it via piston in probably the most ridiculous way possible. It's going to go down here through a ton of stuff. Oh, and I actually misplaced it by a block. It's going to go down here through a ton of stuff, and it is basically going to activate this piston, and it'll then push it back up, but it will generate a C-tick, which is exactly what we need. I'm like 99% sure that that is the door done. I'm really excited. So let's reset the door, go ahead and close it, and see if it works. So we know that the closing works. That is a fact. I'm just going to double check this at the top. I don't see why it shouldn't work. So, opening. Is it working? I feel like it should. We get the drill piston extension. That's fine. Then these push their blocks, its blocks back down. Retracts everything. Yes! Yes, yes, yes! It works! So now I just have to wire this up. Now I have to do the easiest thing. That is just to connect these pistons, and we're done. So I connected up the sides, and the door is done. I don't know what to say. So, closing sequence, that works beautifully in the opening sequence. Although it does take quite a while, it gets the job done. And that's what I'm happy to say. So there we go, my first 5x5 seamless
Anyways, I hope
piston
you guys
door.
enjoyed the video. But before I go, there is something that I do have to say, and that is that yes, this whole idea of building redstone live on camera is originally Mumbo Jumbo's, but there's just so much that I have to say about it that I think that it's worthy of its own video. Anyways, thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you all next time. Bye!